Welcome back, everybody, to the show. How y'all doing out there?
Are we going to call this round two?
This is round two. Ding, ding, ding. And this round two is still going.
Yeah, round two. We haven't even entered round three. Who the hell knows who's going to be the competitors in round three?
I love the fact that this entire saga, the entire console war, I compared it and you jumped on it so quickly that I knew I had to be right. This thing is just a long running, what do you call it? Like, what's the thing? Like, it's a storyline, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Do they call it a work, or was the work specific to the...
No, a work is... Are you talking like in terms of what happens during a storyline? A work is something fake that happens. A shoot is something real.
I'm just thinking storyline. But this is like two superstars going at each other, and then all of a sudden a third person comes in, and now we got a little triple threat match.
It doesn't fit exactly for the probably 15 wrestling fans that listen. This is very much...
The numbers say different.
This is very much Hogan versus Andre, and Macho Man stepping in to give Hogan an assist and then kind of turning on Hogan, except for that was sort of the later years. This is Microsoft, walking in as like an Ultimate Warrior type character that's going to start pushing for the main stage. Now, unfortunately, we know how the story of Warrior ends, and Xbox I don't think is going to end in that same way. But this is living history. This is something that we've gone through. I mean, we weren't alive when the NES first came out, 83, 85, somewhere around there.
I was. I played the NES. I had one.
No, I had the NES, but I wasn't alive when it came out.
Technically, I was.
You didn't have the controller in your hand yet.
Well, no.
But we had a few things before this. This is kind of present day, and we're talking about basically the last 25 years. We're talking about a PS2 and beyond.
I like how you said this is present day. It's the last 25 years.
Well, present day up to today. It's 25 years in today.
Yeah, 100%. But what's crazy about this is, during the first episode, we got to talk about kind of essentially the pioneers who established the video game industry. This is when it is this is the highest it's ever been as far as this. And it's going to keep going up. But you get Microsoft stepping into the ring with Sony and Nintendo with the Xbox, and the introduction of online gaming it's as important as essentially the first part of actually invention of the video games.
For sure.
Because it takes them to this is essentially the advent of like professional gaming. Esports teams, and everything like that, when people are finally able to play online. You're not just getting it's also going to be LAN parties. This is the introduction of, you hate these things. The look of disdain about these LAN parties. But we're going to find out about LAN parties and why Adam hates them so much.
I also blame online gaming for the degradation of society as well.
It probably has had its contributions. This is also a different kind of war that's waged during this. It's like the difference between World War II is the first set of console wars. This is now almost like a Cold War type situation where it's more behind the scenes. You don't have the human element of the characters going back and forth. It's essentially the marketing, and it's the way that who these, consoles go after, and kind of the drama that surrounds trying to beat someone else to market or capture a studio. It's a lot more corporate espionage-ish as far as this goes.
Yeah. Don't worry, there's still going to be plenty of mistakes that are made.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
On all three parties.
If there's humans involved in this, there's going to be mistakes. But we're going to get into it wherever you guys listen to your podcast, 5-star reviews. We haven't talked about this for a few weeks, so if you're just actually coming on and seeing this one, go back and listen to part 1 to kind of set the stage. Got anything else?
Yeah, keep the ratings coming. 5 stars help us so much. I think the last time I looked, we were at like 1,200 ratings, which is huge. I do know that we have more listeners than that on Spotify. So if you do have the time, it would be fantastic for us. It keeps us in the algorithms. It raises us up the top 50 list. We're pretty comfortable there.
It raises us up in more than one way.
Yeah, we'd like to continue this push, because as we get bigger, this gets bigger and you guys get more. And that's, everybody wins.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, without waiting any longer, let's get into it. All right, so where we last left our intrepid adventurers, Sega had, I don't even say gracefully, but Sega had basically just kind of done the Homer Simpson backing into the shrub and just kind of disappeared from consoles back in 2001.
If you've played Sonic the Hedgehog on a Nintendo game system, it's because Nintendo and Sony beat Sega so bad that they had to license out their...
Well, okay, come on. Sega and Nintendo did work together a little bit in the sense of just, I mean, Sega is still a software and a game developer.
Yeah.
But as far as their flagship character, yeah, they probably knew they weren't doing much with Sonic. And so that's why he shows up sometimes in like Super Smash Brothers and other games that Nintendo licenses. But Nintendo right now, they're still going strong with the N64. PlayStation has got the PS1 out that is just kicking everybody's ass. And right now it's kind of a two-horse race.
Yeah, you'd think. I mean, Sony is embarking on something that I don't know if it's truth. I don't know if it's fiction, but Sony is starting to threaten more than just the gaming market. Sony is starting to threaten the household electronics market, you'd say, that
I think
computer market.
I think more so in the whole home entertainment
Okay,
market,
yeah,
because that's going to be a
put it.
term that is used so much during the development of some of these projects when they start to lose focus of what these things actually are. But you already have Sony in everyone's home with TVs, with receiver and stereo systems, speakers, all that kind of stuff. Why not match everything together and put this, this PlayStation in here? It's got that Sony quality. And with the next level of, PlayStation that we're working on, it's going to have more functionality that other people can use. Sony knows that they've got a hit. It already feels like they're on their second console when they released the PS1. And I don't know if that's because of the development that they had with Nintendo and maybe a little bit. I don't know how much development they actually got into it with Sega when it was still around, but Sony is basically hits the ground running, and there's a ton of pressure now to essentially raise the bar.
Well, Kutaragi said that he started developing the PlayStation in 1989.
That's, kind of going back to the first episode and everything. They said when he came in with the prototype, when he got moved from their corporate office over to the recording label, it was about the size of a refrigerator. That's how many different motherboards and everything
processors.
Like that and that's what they had to then scale down into the PS1. It sounds crazy, but it's actually true. But yeah, as he'd been developing that, now that they have kind of the facilities in place to be able to produce something like this, and after the sales of the PS1, Sony is willing to put a lot more backing behind it for resources.
Oh, yeah.
They know that no one else is handling this older market. We should have fucking just clear, wide open space in front of us to do whatever we want to. And all of a sudden this announcement comes out that Microsoft has thrown its hat into the console game.
And Microsoft sees whether it's true or not, what they see and what they believe is that Sony's starting to encroach on this home entertainment computer market, because part of the reason that we talked about the crash in 83 was because of just the dilution of the games and how poor they were. Also, this is when home computers started landing in houses, was in the mid 80s. So who's bigger in computers than Microsoft?
No, and no company in the world is actually bigger than Microsoft right now.
Yeah, so you have such a, I don't know if it's... You're scared. I don't know if you're worried. I don't know if you just want to try to vanquish them quickly. But Microsoft throws their hat into the ring, and all of a sudden, this gauntlet just got so much harder. October 26th, 2000, in the year of the millennium, Sony releases the best-selling game console of all time, the PS2. Over its lifetime, the PS2 sells more than 160 million units. It's nearly triple the combined sales of other 6th-gen consoles combined. So 6th-gen consoles, we're talking about, I guess it's not bits anymore, right?
They've shied away from, once you get, I think, to more of the 3D thing, I think bits are kind of, I don't know.
It's just more the level of processing.
Yeah.
So this 6th gen, we're talking about, we're talking about the PS2, we're talking about the GameCube, and we're talking about the Xbox. Now, that number sounds skewed to me because when we start talking about the GameCube, you're going to be like, oh shit, well, that's why they have so much more, because GameCube didn't provide anything and Xbox was new.
Yeah.
It was an unknown entity.
Here's the thing, too. You already have this culture at this point of, like, you have your console gamers and you have your computer gamers.
Mm-hmm.
There is that divide already at this point. And when people hear that Microsoft is getting into the game, they're looking at that and saying, a computer company doesn't know about making, like, they make computer games or something like that. They don't know about making a console. Like, there's this skepticism because, again, SEGA just had to go ahead and bow, and with Microsoft being this insanely large company, there's kind of this feeling like this is just like a pet project for them just to kind of test the waters. And I mean, it is. That's kind of what it is. And so, while Microsoft announces that they're going to be releasing the Xbox, PS2 is ready to actually go out and releases in October of 2000.
I mean, if this isn't a direct shot that you would say, or maybe a ricochet, this emotion engine processor that was developed at Toshiba that was put into the PS2 was promoted as more powerful than a computer. I feel like that might have a pointed message to it. Mm-hmm. Maybe like, hey guys, I know you make computers. We just put a processing chip in this that's more powerful than a computer.
And I mean, to Microsoft credit, they're a software company.
Yeah.
So that's where their bread and butter is. But at the same time, something's going to perk up their ears if someone is sniffing around and trying to get their foot into that.
Yeah. So we see a retail number of $299 on this. Ken Kutaragi began work on the PS2 at the launch date, like days after the launch date of the PS1. He's on the PS2. So you're working double as hard. We're talking about home entertainment growth. This thing has a built-in DVD player in it. So now you don't even need to buy a DVD player.
He's Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
364 more days till next year's hockey tryouts.
He was ready to go.
Tough enough, yeah.
He knew it had to happen. But again, home entertainment system. That's going to play a big role in this episode. Now you have a video game player and you have a DVD player that you don't have to spend money on a second one. I don't remember how DVDs were in 2000. I don't remember what we had to have still been somewhat VCR heavy.
No.
Really?
Yeah, we're heavy DVDs at that point.
We were out of tapes that bad in 2000?
So, think of it this way. How long has Blu-ray been a thing? So, not even that. Streaming for the last, I don't know, 8 years. I'm probably being conservative on, let's say 5.
Okay.
5 years, 10 years before that was probably Blu-ray. Before that was DVD for at least 15 years. VHSs were an early 90s thing.
Okay. All right. But this DVD player is a pretty big deal. Also, we have the big, beautiful catalog of PlayStation games that gets to migrate to PS2 because it has backwards compatibility. The same thing that Super Nintendo decided to cut out that hurt them so much against Sega.
That's why you can't do cartridges, man.
Yep.
And you can't expect, unless you're making the exact same cartridge, and then your unit has to look similar.
And just like we talked about with Sega having a better catalog, it's going to provide a better springboard for everything else.
Well, what probably happened and what gives PlayStation a huge advantage is any of those software companies that were a little bit reliant maybe on Sega to develop their games. Mm-hmm. Now that Sega's gone, what are they going to do? They can still develop these games, and all of a sudden they're either being approached by, Sony, or going to Sony and being like, please, sir, do you have any more games?
Which is, I mean, you have Nintendo, who is still riding pretty high off of 64. They're going to be entering the market. But if they're entering the market, it's probably not going to be with a cartridge anymore, because it's so far out of fashion. They do hilariously the worst thing that they can do beyond a cartridge. But
it's the mini disc, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And we'll talk about the mini disc because it's hilarious.
And I mean, Nintendo's still kind of doing its thing where it's sticking to more of it's skewing younger.
Yeah.
And PlayStation is just kind of, this has been the biggest thing too about this whole thing. Your audience, that's why people play games now. I'll play games my entire life. It's a nice stress relief. Unless you're playing online, that is stressful as fuck. Sometimes you just got to throw on a good RPG and just go at your own pace.
Turn your brain off.
Yeah, exactly. And PlayStation is aging with its for those gamers. I think what Nintendo, where its strength lies even today, is, and I don't know if this is on purpose, but Nintendo's like, we'll just keep making stuff for younger people. And then the parents will remember this stuff when they get older. And so they'll buy it for their kids and then they'll play with their kids. And that's where you get things that are going to be developed by Nintendo here in just a little bit.
Yeah, it's kind of like a dumb fun thing.
Yeah.
It's across any level, it's always going to be. Sony's marketing strategy is pretty brilliant. They put their target age that they want to go after as 17 years old. Because if you go after a 17-year-old, you have the children that want to be older, and then you have the 17-year-olds that have grown up and matured to these games beyond that age.
At what age is the working age in most places? Okay, so they'll save up their money, and then usually they'll have younger siblings, which they'll also see playing there. Here's the thing, too. Sony has done some pretty fucking wild marketing things. Even back as far as just the PS1. What was the thing in Europe you were talking about?
So Europe was fun. Europe was nuts. Big dance culture in Europe. There's
a big club scene, a lot of techno and everything like that. Yeah.
You have these fighting games that have this techno music. You have a natural tie-in. They put gaming pods inside of dance halls, dance clubs in Europe that you could go as soon as you got off the dance floor. You could walk over and you could start playing it. The music's hitting. You're sitting there fighting back and forth. It's a big draw.
You are just fucking rolling.
Yep. You go to music shows or you go to music festivals. Everybody's outside. Sony sent people out there with these postcards to mark the release of the PS or the PlayStation in Europe. And on these postcards, there was a perforation that you could rip off that would provide you with basically the perfect roll for a joint. And
genius.
PlayStation gets questioned about this, and they say, well, why are you trying to provide potential paraphernalia to somebody in Music Fest?
Why are you including zigzags with your postcard?
They say, no. We're green already. We're looking towards the future. When people have spent gum, instead of them spitting it out onto the grass and somebody else potentially stepping on it, they're to just rip that part of the card off and use it to dispose of their gum.
If there's one thing I've learned, gamers like gum more than they like weed.
Yeah, and at music festivals, gum is way more popular than weed, definitely. I'm sure.
Look how clean the ground is. Look how many pieces of gum we've stopped.
There was a marketing ad that Europe actually shut down that showed this couple who just looked completely burnt out and had nosebleeds in front of a TV. Now, the nosebleeds could obviously lead towards these people who were out all night partying and had done a bunch of cocaine and then were coming home to play the PlayStation. PlayStation comes out when Europe says this is probably a bridge too far for us. And they say, no. They just played so hard that they both got nosebleeds.
It's so intense. Yeah.
Just the marketing.
It's so like cocaine.
Uh-huh.
Which is crazy because isn't those the centers that it hits when you're playing video games? Is the same
dopamine receptors,
yeah.
Yep. So they kind of know what their audience is. And if you're saying they were 17 years old when the PlayStation came out, you're already sunk into an older market. Like Chris said, if you can target young, impressionable children, just like they do with fucking student loans, credit cards, everything is marketed towards these kids because of all the stuff that they had that their parents paid for that they want to continue to have. So you're going to sacrifice buying a couch for buying a new PlayStation. Like it's
like, why 17? Some kids are working, they're close enough to graduation that they can be asking for a present, go into college gifts, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of Sony's where they're looking at. And when Microsoft ends up coming in, they come in aiming at that same demographic. They're not going after Nintendo's crowd. They're going after Sony's part.
PlayStation had a 6-month run of being the sole 6th generation console on the market. PS2 also had a network adapter that they would have to put in. We'll talk about this shortly in 2002.
The PlayStation 2 had the 6-month
PlayStation
run.
2 had a network adapter.
Which, and a 6-month run.
By itself.
Okay, by itself.
And we'll talk about kind of why the network adapter comes in because it blows me away how these guys just tit for tat each other. But this is where we get GTA 3. This is where we get, instead of the top-down bird's eye view, we're driving around in a car, picking up hookers and pulling into the back alleys, watching the car shake, and then killing the prostitute and taking your money back. This is when all of GTA...
It's such a specific thing if you're just hearing it. But as anyone has ever played Grand Theft Auto is just like, they're just silently nodding to themselves right now.
The first thing you do is you rob enough people to get enough money and you go pick up a hooker. It's a rite of passage in the GTA world, but it gives you this whole new view.
Modern day John Hughes.
Yeah. When you're watching what looks like a little BB shoot other little BBs at people and rob cars, it's a completely different view when you're looking in behind him and actually seeing everything happen all at once. It's transformative.
This shouldn't be a hot take. I do feel like, you know how it's always been said that video games skew kids toward violence because there's so much violence in video games? I contend that that's an outlet.
Yeah, there's a give and a take that I see in it. It is an outlet, but at the same time, it also doesn't give you a realistic expectation of consequences.
No. I understand that. I'm also saying that if you're susceptible enough by a video game to not know the difference, maybe larger issues. What I'm also saying is that when you really break it down, like, you know, Call of Duty and all that kind of stuff, when you're just trying to knock the other team out, I don't even know at this point how much the focus or you're even thinking, I killed that guy.
Strategy.
It's just moving around and you're just knocking off targets is what you're doing. And yeah, there are hyper-violent games and everything like that, but in what world is Mortal Kombat going to relate to the real world? Like, he went to the mall dressed as like an old Tibetan monk and started like throwing fireballs at people. Like that kind of stuff doesn't happen. So there's not a lot of merit to that argument with me.
No, I don't think that it's great. I think that there's an age. I don't know what age that is, but I would probably skew towards teenage when this can start happening. Late teens, probably.
Well, here's the thing too. Minecraft, which is geared toward a pretty young audience, which, oh my God, dude, it's so addictive. It is so...
I've never touched it.
I wish I had never done it. I downloaded it for the kid because he watches videos on it.
Did you guys go see the movie?
Yeah, we went and saw the movie too.
Okay.
But it's so crazy because of all the stuff that he knows. But you die in that game if you get hit. So even in those games, like there's an aspect of it where you're already kind of immersed in that
consequence.
Yeah.
November 15th, 2001, Microsoft does something that they've never done before, and they release their first ever video game console, the Xbox. The Xbox had, a pretty interesting coming to market as far as how they were going to do it, because they didn't have a flagship title. You have to start creating a backlog of things that have to be up and running when the Xbox releases.
It's not the advent of it because this happened between Nintendo and Sega and everything, but this is where console exclusives become kind of the big deal that they're going to be going forward with video games. When Microsoft decides to launch the Xbox, they need to have a huge flagship product to go ahead and send that with. Side note, the guy that was in charge of the Xbox like program and everything was the most like prototypical type person you would expect out of like a Seattle-based company like that. The first shot it shows of him is he's skateboarding in the office and everything. He's like, "What's up, dudes? I'm the heads of Xbox." But he's a millionaire, like even before that, because he's like a software genius. Was like a millionaire, and it's like, oh, I guess that's the guy you want design. That's your demographic and everything. You want that guy designing it.
Yeah, Xbox is pushing their product towards dweebs, towards people that are maybe unrefined towards the beauties and eccentricities of the PlayStation.
You just described in vivid detail what Grand Theft Auto, your murdering of hookers and stuff like that. Doesn't sound.
I know that's a cool guy thing. Like, that's not a guy
Halo's
skateboarding.
Pretty fucking cool.
That's not a guy skateboarding with a Starbucks in his hand.
Okay. You know
We're
why?
getting contentious
you
early.
know
I
why?
like this.
I know, and it's gonna and it's early. It's 25 minutes in. Here's the thing, guys. This is like the era in which you remember most for video games if you're around me and Adam's age. So there's a lot of passion in this conversation. And you know what? Let me tell you something. I actually lost my train. God damn it. I lost my train of thought on that. You know what it is? You're upset at what Halo did to you.
No.
Yes, you are. That's why you have bad feelings like this. It wasn't you don't feel like it was a live and let live situation. when the Xbox dropped, one of the things that it came out with was Xbox Live. Xbox Live has been the game-changing moment for gaming just in general.
The whole reason why PlayStation had to put the adapter on the PS2
was because of Xbox Live. And of course, because you're working as a software company with modems and everything like that, you probably have a leg up in knowing how to actually get that integrated in there.
Well, Xbox had the brilliant strategy of throwing a broadband modem inside of their Xbox.
Which,
because
if you're fitting all that kind of stuff in there, there's a reason why the Xbox itself was the size it was in comparison to the PS2.
But at the point in time that we were at that Xbox releases, it's still dial-up. Broadband's not really a thing yet.
No, it is where if you're in certain, I'm sure if you're at Microsoft headquarters and everything, everything. So you're designing that because you know if you have it now, it's going to be publicly available during the shelf life of your unit. It's something you've got to be looking forward to, especially if you know the other guy doesn't have it.
In 5 years, a majority is going to have broadband. It's
exactly.
Just, it was them working ahead of time. But yeah, no, continue as to why I'm sour grapes.
Okay, so it has Xbox Live. Not only is Halo just a masterful game, there's going to be a lot of homering during this episode.
A lot of homering.
And let's just be respectful. I think that's the best thing we can do.
Yeah.
Remember, we're friends. We're co-hosts.
Yeah. No, this isn't. The only reason that you feel this way is because
there's a lot of shit to throw in this room.
You're taking what I say personally. Maybe I'm not talking about you. Maybe I'm talking about a different demographic of shoulderless video game players.
One thing I will say too, when the Xbox dropped, so I had here's the thing, I was a PS1 and PS2 guy, and my PS2 ended up crapping out, and Xbox had been out for a little bit, and I saw everyone else playing Halo. It looked fucking awesome. I had played enough PS2 that I'd kind of gone through the catalog of games that I was interested in. And so I ended up switching over. It was at the time that they'd finally caught the hint when they had the first controller that was just
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it.
And it had been the smaller original controller. So I ended up getting it. Halo has, it's standard now to have 4 controllers that you're able to go and play on these things. And Halo was perfect for multiplayer. Not only was it an awesome first-person shooter, awesome, character, awesome campaign, but its legs were in the LAN party and on Xbox Live. A LAN party, for those of you that don't know, is simply where you are just like, LAN is, it's just short for landline, basically.
Okay.
So you would just get like 2 Xboxes. I don't know if you could hook up more than 2 because it only had the 2 ports that you could go in.
I thought we played in 3 rooms.
Maybe.
Possibly.
But you would hook the Xboxes together and then like have different groups of 4 guys. There were no girls here. Around these two.
They weren't even close to here.
And this was basically to prevent what was called screen peeking, which if all your buddies are playing on one Xbox and you're all against each other, you're seeing your guys' different quadrants on the screen and you can't, get the jump on anyone. So these LAN parties became like insanely popular because it was capable of doing this, and this game was awesome for this specific reason. Add in the fact that not only can you get with all your friends and do this, but now if your friends are busy doing something, you can jump online and play with other people. Have things like leaderboards, start testing your rankings, things that hadn't been done in gaming before. You used to be able to talk shit with your buddies on how many hookers you fucking stabbed in Grand Theft Auto in like a 6-hour period. Now, on Xbox, if that were the case, you could actually track your hooker killing stats.
Yeah. It's cool, I guess.
I cede my time. I return the floor back to you.
Okay. Big deal, though, with Microsoft releasing, because they become the first console that had been produced in North America since 1993. That was the Atari Jaguar. So this kind of...
It was more... It was kind of more so for that.
This threw me through a loop because there's always a Japan release date for every console, and then there's always a North American release date, then Europe, and so on and so forth.
Wasn't Atari originally a California-based company, though?
I think so.
But it was not at that time. It got bought up. With a name like Jaguar, that seems like something not an American company would name something.
No, maybe British. Who the hell knows? We didn't have Jaguar. We probably had Jaguars in North America. We got a goddamn football team named them.
We do have Jaguars. Remember, there was the Florida Jaguars that were down there, and then there's also some that come across like in New Mexico. We talked about this during an episode. That's the only reason I know that.
Okay. But that's a pretty big deal to be a North American, and these release dates have always gone Japan first, North America second. But the fact that Microsoft is headquartered in the United States, the release of the Xbox actually comes prior to the release in Japan.
And it wasn't, I feel like they tailored it more toward the United States,
absolutely.
whereas I think PlayStation just kind of had universal appeal with how it went about everything.
But their titles that they released over in Japan before they released anything in the United States were pretty much just strictly Japanese.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
They had plenty of time to develop North American games while they were playing those over there. But this is the first time that it switches. This is the first time that Microsoft releases in the United States and then Japan instead of vice versa.
I love that Japan just kind of looks at the Xbox, the design, they're just like, ew. It's big, it's bulky. Like, that's not their style over there. They want stuff compact and, like, small.
And it was kind of bad. Like it didn't look great. And I'm not just saying that to take shots because I got plenty more in the chamber.
It's about what's under the hood, baby.
Yeah, and this thing had an Intel Pentium 3 processor. Microsoft was concerned about these gaming consoles to, again, threaten this home computer market. You're a computer company. You're going to build the Xbox with whatever you have. If you have standard computer components to put in this thing, why not? You're going to do it. The cards are going to be great. Everything's going to be good.
You know how to build the fuck out of a computer and all the,
Now you just, instead of worrying about any other things that it has to run, it's literally just solely a game.
Yeah.
And they did add extras, but again, it was so focused on the game. They knew that this was going to be bad. Originally, the price that they put on getting into this market was going to be a $1 billion loss.
Yeah.
They went through and reconfigured that. I think it was about $2.1 billion is what it actually cost them to enter this market, but it's paid off in spades.
It's so crazy that number, the billion number, gets thrown around so casually going forward with this.
And what they do to kick these things off, as Chris just so eloquently gave us a soliloquy about Halo, was Bungie was a game developer and
an Xbox exclusive game developer. So
Xbox needed something.
Exactly.
And Xbox needed something to be able to build these titles around. They call Bungie. They say, hey, what's going on? We need a developer. We need a game. What do you got in the chamber? And he's like, I got this game that we've been working on over here at Bungie. It's a first-person shooter. And that sort of tips the ears, I think, of Microsoft because PC gaming is mostly first-person shooters.
Mouse and click, yeah. Point and click.
So that sounds good. Then they describe this alien world that they're fighting against and all the other goofy shit that goes on in Halo, and you can drive any vehicle that's on the map, and you can hump any tree that's out there. There's all this different stuff.
Dude, it was the invention of teabagging.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
See, you can put your nuts against anything you want. And Xbox decides to take a chance on it. They think that this is going to be their flagship.
I think Xbox also kind of ran into the same problem that Sega did early on when they're unproven. And in order for a game developer to go ahead and customize a game, it takes a lot of money. It's not just like, hey, yeah, we made this game for PlayStation. Let's go ahead and make it for Xbox and everything. Sometimes you have to do a lot more work to make it compatible with the system that game, that console is actually running.
For sure.
And so when you don't have access to this insane pipeline of game developers like Sony does, and you're having to maybe prove yourself before other game developers will really invest in what you're going to be doing and everything, you have to kind of go out and try to find and corner your own. And they got lucky with Bungie because that ends up becoming essentially the backbone until probably, I don't know, Halo 3. That's still the backbone of sales for Xbox.
Yeah, absolutely. And it works out in their favor. Unfortunately, they didn't invest enough R&D into the things that kind of began to matter. Xbox had the best that I can refer to as a BBC problem. They had the biggest, blackest, thickest, most bulbous controllers.
Like the first gen.
Anybody, if you guys didn't think I was talking about controllers, you're all perverts.
The Xbox logo in the middle of it that was like weirdly, it looked like a gem or something. That thing it was almost the size of a hard-boiled egg.
It was like Flavor Flavor's clock chain.
Yes.
It was gigantic. And I'm talking from the standpoint of a guy that has massive hands. And the first time I grabbed an Xbox controller,
I had to wait, man.
house,
It was too big. My hands couldn't use all the buttons.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was like grabbing a big, thick.
Yeah, we get it.
Baseball
you did it.
bat.
Yep. You did it the first time.
It was so bad that they had to come out. They listened to everybody's problems. They're like, this is too big. It hurts my hands. It makes me feel like less of a man holding on to this thing. So they come out with this Xbox S controller that's a little bit smaller. So kind of in the way that an arm wrestling match made Sony's controller bigger, the calls of the people brought it all back home.
I heard tell of a legend back in the Nintendo Sega days, or back in the early PlayStation days, in which they arm wrestled over sizes of controllers. But yeah, that sometimes I still will see one of those like thrift store or something like that, and it's just like, oh, what were you doing?
Well, and I kind of like it. For as much as I'm going to rag on Xbox, I'll give them their flowers and they need it. But they were so focused on creating a good game system, I think, that those smaller details kind of went by the wayside.
Yeah.
And I would say that Xbox was pretty revolutionary in a lot of things that they did. To come in, they end up losing $4 billion to gain this market share. They sold 24 million units, but they finally get a foothold.
And it was $299, right?
I believe so.
Okay, they're coming in. The PS2 is already cleaning up.
Yeah, $299.
It forces PlayStation to put in the adapter to be able to actually connect to the internet, Ethernet cable or whatnot. So now they're on par with capability as far as online and also with price, right? Both at $299.
Yeah, and we're pushing the boundaries. We're making PlayStation have to make moves. That's a pretty good spot to be in. And then maybe the best thing that could have happened to them, November 18th, 2001, Nintendo drops the GameCube. Sorry, Nintendo fans, I'm about to get real mean because the GameCube was a turd that looked like a sixth grader's lunchbox, and it had one of the worst controllers that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But the flagship of the shit show that was the GameCube was the mini disc.
Yeah.
We talked about this with the cartridges in the first round of this series about how the negligence to go to a CD-ROM cost them the Final Fantasy franchise.
It's not only that. Quit changing. You're not doing anything to help yourself with backward compatibility.
Yeah.
I know that sounds like a fucking nerd argument, but like, quit. If you're going to just do it, just go full CD and then do that from here on out. No one could use any of these other cartridges on any of these other systems. You changed every time.
So this mini DVD was so bad, it could hold 1.5 gigabytes of data as opposed to a CD-ROM, a normal CD DVD can hold up to about 8.5 gigabytes. This meant that for longer period games, GameCube had to release multiple discs, multiple mini discs.
This was like when they Titanic came out on VHS.
Yep.
And it was in the 2-tape set. Yeah.
Yeah, you would have to flip over in the game box to get the second disc when it prompts you to, so you can continue your storyline.
I played there is a game. It was Mass Effect 3. And it came with 2 discs because it was such a big game. I love the shit out of that, though.
Yeah, dude, but why? What are we doing here? 2 discs? That's your solution, is to go the Titanic VHS route?
More game? Yes. Here's the deal.
It's good.
Make me change it that I have more game. Don't give me a little game and then make me still change the disc because you can't hold anything.
Yeah, if it's quality, if there's enough desire to go to a second disc, it's probably a good enough game. But it's just a flop. It doesn't ever work out. This family-friendly appeal does help sales. I mean, I had cousins that had it. It was okay to play.
Here's the thing. I feel like if it was left up to the kid, and they're like, what video game system you want? It's either going to be PlayStation, most likely PlayStation, or it's going to be Xbox. If the parent is like, we should get our kid a video game system for Christmas and everything like that, that's who picks the GameCube. Because they look at it and they see the games and they're like, this is nice and everything. But that's not the one that they want.
$199 starting price.
So it's like you could walk into your friend's house and if they had a GameCube, you just look at them and be like, parents surprise you with that? He's like, yeah, unfortunately.
Is this the last one that they had at the store? Did they not have a PlayStation or an Xbox?
Don't forget your lunch pail.
Yeah, no shit. You can carry that around with you all day. But we run into the issue again where if Xbox sells 24 million and Nintendo sells 21.7 million, they're not only getting beat by Sony, which they did, I believe, I don't know if 64 won or if PlayStation won.
So when it came down,
fifth gen.
So when it came down to it, and I can't move on from the Xbox without giving a shout out to Knights of the Old Republic, one of the greatest games on Xbox.
Never heard of it.
It's a Star Wars game, so of course you wouldn't have ever heard of it. And also the Star Wars Battlefront series, which was basically just like a large scale battle, and you got to pilot Star Wars aircraft.
It was a giant virginity saver.
Yeah, in a way. Okay. Unless you'd already had sex and then it was just fun.
Okay, all right.
You weren't trying to suppress anything. But when it came down to it, between the two of them, PS2, 155 million units. Again, like you said, to the 24 that Xbox sold. Microsoft knows this is a huge loss, but they also know how hard the market is to get into. They know that they made a dent, and so they're going to go ahead and throw more support behind it, and they're going to come back again.
And they came in second out of 3.
Yeah.
Because GameCube puts up 21.7 million units in their lifetime. And this is including, it was Christmas season of 2003. Nintendo drops their price down to $100. They do end up quadrupling the sales of the GameCube, which does improve their market share to 39%.
Yeah, because now your Nana can afford to buy it for you.
Yeah, $100.
And then you're still like, God damn it, Nana, I said a PlayStation.
What's going on, man? $100. June 2003, so a little bit before that, the splits were Xbox and GameCube both had 13% of the market share. So you've already caught up to what Nintendo has, this legend in the game. You're already on par with them.
Also, I forgot to mention one thing that's always kind of hamstrung Nintendo is they never lower the price of their games. Even for
really?
Not even for systems that are old or anything like that. Their games always tend to stay kind of the same price. So it's not like if you remember the days PS2 came out, kind of in its later time frame, you'd go to get PS1 games and they'd be in the bin in those original CD cases.
$5, $10.
Yeah, $5 and everything.
Yeah, I forgot all about the PS1 CD cases because they switched pretty quick into PS2. It was the plastic.
Yeah.
The soft plastic.
A little bit more pomp and circumstance with that. Get a little more art on it. It doesn't feel so flimsy.
Yeah, definitely.
I remember when it got real fancy Xbox, sometimes you'd get the CD case that had the little locks on the side that you had to click out.
Yeah, like a DVD case, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds kind of preposterous. Unnecessary.
I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why those are there.
PS2, 60% of the market share, of course, when you're selling that much more and you're just killing everything. Obviously, the second place for Xbox is huge. If you have bitten into the market that much, but you did lose $4 billion, you're more willing to throw money at it again. And this time you come out first because November 22nd, 2005, Microsoft comes out. And these are all North American dates. I didn't do any Japan dates. So these are all North American. Xbox 360 releases this first in the 7th gen battle. This is $399 and $299 because we decided it was a 60 gig and a 20 gig.
I don't know if those are the exact. It was basically an advantage in memory on it. And so it was, yeah. And so they decided this time, hey, let's kind of meet the consumer in a couple different markets for the very serious gamers and then people that were maybe just a little bit more casual or their parents.
Smart. Yeah. If you're getting the gamers on the periphery to come to your side, that's great.
And if all you're changing is the memory on it, that's you're making the exact same unit. You're just putting in a different hard drive. So insanely smart on that. It was kind of some backstory on the 360, which is going to lead into what kind of hampers its success is when they're developing this, the PS3 is in development at the time as well, correct? During the same time. They're trying to find a chip that can actually handle this type of like processing for the 360. And Sony had previously been working with IBM. And so they were designing this new chip that was going to be used in the PS3. Well, Microsoft approached with a very attractive offer. It was an offer they couldn't refuse. And basically we're like, hey, we're going to need you guys to go ahead and design a chip. And they're like, well, it just so happens we're already designing one that does that. It's going to be used for the PS3. And they didn't have an exclusivity deal, I guess, with Sony. And so they were able to sell that as well to Microsoft to put into the 360. Well, of course, Sony's not going to be very happy about that.
I wouldn't be. No.
And in order to also one-up Sony in this situation, and you know what? I'm not sure that they didn't already know that it was in development at IBM. So when they're like, hey, we're looking for this, it was more of like, we know you have this and you're working on it for Sony, but we're Microsoft and we have more money than everyone. So
here's a few extra pocket protectors.
Here's a pencil and a piece of paper. Write down your price.
Could be.
So in order to also beat Sony to market, because again, holiday seasons, that's when you're going to go ahead and release everything. That wasn't going to happen with the 360 and the PS3 initially.
It was a year between them.
Exactly. And so Microsoft is like, we got to take advantage of this holiday season. We can not only have this one, but we can have the entire almost a year before the PS3. We need to go ahead and rush these things out. Well, what ends up happening is when you're rushing these out, they weren't being tested properly. And the chips that were being integrated into this, I finally have looked it up, everyone. The red ring of death. I know what caused it. The red ring of death is legendary for anybody that had an Xbox 360 because the worst case scenario that you feared would come one day is you went to hit the power button and all of a sudden 3 of the red lights that would go around the normally green lights around the power button would start blinking.
I thought it was called the red ring of death because when it didn't start, your asshole puckered so much it just turned into a red ring.
No. It wasn't called that. Don't fucking take pleasure in the pain that fucking millions have suffered.
No, I can't wait till we get to the cost of fixing the red ring of death.
Yeah. So red ring of death essentially is like a hardware issue. It's a hardware failure. What ended up happening is when they designed the Xbox 360 and they were rushing this thing into production, they normally go through a lot more extensive testing. That was sacrificed in favor of the time that they would save. What happens is the Xbox 360 would get pretty fucking hot. And when it got hot, the soldering that was on the chips would get hot as well. Then the Xbox would cool. Then it would get hot. And through that time, that degrades and would separate and, you know, the contraction expansion. And all of a sudden those solders would break and the Xbox would stop working. This was as far as like failure of electronics goes, this was like a large scale. This happened to me personally. So I can attest of how horrible it was. Not only that, but because Xbox wasn't expecting this to happen. They got reports.
Nobody expects this to happen.
I understand that, but you would think that like within the time frame of moving something up, your expectation is you're going to have some blowback.
Yeah.
They weren't expecting it to be this big, but this is also coming at a time when the internet is a thing and people are communicating a lot. Professional gamers and game reviewers for consoles are starting to become a big thing, especially in video game magazines, electronic magazines. And when you start getting negative reviews, they spread and they can kill the momentum of a console before it even picks up any steam. So they're trying to kind of keep this on the down low. People are sending back these, but they're having problems trying to determine what the issue is. They know it's having to do with something with the heat, but they can't really pin it down. They don't have the support system set up for this yet. They're start getting more and more calls as people are using their 360s more and more. And when all is said, I'm going to let you do it because I know you want to do it.
Okay. Market standard failure rate on a home console, acceptable 2%. The failure rate estimates for the Xbox 360 Red Ring of Death were between 23 and 54%. That's a lot.
For your follow-up console and all this build-up for it and everything, when it worked, it was beautiful, man.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
The launch of the Gears of War franchise, that's one of my favorite franchises. This is also because PlayStation, Xbox, they've started syncing up releases.
Mm-hmm. This was toe to toe. We were into the ring every single time.
This is now the time when you go get that release at midnight and you don't go to sleep.
Yeah.
You take the next day off of work and you're playing that thing.
I'm pretty sure there was a lot of Microsoft execs that didn't sleep for a long time during this period. Supposedly, the Red Ring of Death cost Microsoft between 1.15 billion or
1.1 to 1.5.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
$billion in repair. They had to, once they realized that this thing was an insane issue, they extended the warranties by 3 years on all Xboxes. They created a dedicated shipping system in which FedEx would come get your Xbox for you and take it and be shipped back. And then I'm trying to think what the other issue, they did something else as well.
Like a handshake or a card or, hey, sorry.
A hand job.
Yeah. I don't like taking pleasure in other people's pain. That's just not me, and that's not what I stand for. I do think that this is just kind of something that you run into when you're in a new space. Something as simple as solder could be overlooked at any point in time. Now, it's a massive failure rate, so it is a big issue. The reason that this can happen and everybody can survive is because Microsoft isn't just a gamer, or it's not just a gaming console distributor. Mm-hmm. Just like Sony walked into Nintendo that just built games basically at that point and built consoles. SEGA, who just built consoles and was a little into the arcade game, a big loss for them was going to hurt because that's a big chunk of your business. Microsoft had the means to just take it on the nose, just like Sony had the means to take it on the nose.
Walking around money. Wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's Scrooge McDuck in the vault.
When you're that big of a company, you can take these losses with the hopes of coming out on the other side, and they did. For all of the Red Ring of Death issues, 360 was pretty game-changing just in the way that things worked with Xbox Live. They introduced Xbox Music. They introduced the Xbox Video series where you can start to stream things. An early streamer on a video game console is pretty nuts.
Halo 3.
Yeah.
Legend. That's, I think, probably the most successful and the most well-received of the Halo franchise. So that's still going strong. And again, that's still kind of Gears of War comes in and is kind of the launch vehicle for the 360 along with Halo in there. So that's their big push. But yeah, like you said, you have some advantages where you're adding a couple extra features.
Yeah.
You're kind of warming people up to the idea of maybe this just not being a gaming console. This is going to take care of a few other things.
When you're fleshing out Xbox Live to the point to where when they're saying, hey, we have to get rid of this, we have to get rid of this modem in this is taking up a bunch of space. And they say, well, what if we can start charging these people money for all of this that's a monthly fee that pays for that and puts money in our pocket? It's just, you're expanding upon an idea that
Xbox
was
Live came out of the gate with a fee.
I thought there was a free and then there was a fee, and then they slowly moved it back.
I think there was a fee out of the gate. I know the big turning point or the big pushing point for PlayStation once they got their online services was like PlayStation. What did they call it? Play? It was, what's theirs called?
It's like a 3-tiered platform now that you can get that.
But theirs was free initially too.
Yes.
And that was kind of one
PS
of their
Network
big things is we don't charge for that access. Well, you didn't have that access until Xbox did. So
yeah, well, we caught on pretty quick. 360 did a couple other things that, much like PS2 had to throw that network adapter on there, 360 had to kind of adapt to a couple different things that were going on at the time. And we're going to talk about why this all plays in here in a little bit. Xbox Kinetic gets released in 2010. It uses RGB cameras and infrared projectors to capture movement. It also has speech recognition. It also has voice control. And this was basically to take the controller out of the hand of the gamer and put them on a stage to interact and to control what's going on in the game with just their body.
So what was this in response to?
We'll get to it.
Okay.
This was just Kinect, I feel like, out of the gate, and the 360 was big. I think that it...
I never used it, so I really don't know. One thing I did get bit by, and I'm still not happy about with Microsoft, even though I am still a loyal Xbox user, is HD DVDs. versus Blu-ray. So Microsoft, because Sony had, I think, a contract or something with Blu-ray, they didn't want to be essentially paying a royalty of a Blu-ray player in these 360s or capable of it, because they'd be paying Sony essentially royalties with each of them. So there was another version of media for HD DVDs called, surprise, surprise, HD DVD. How do you lose? You were the first in and your HD DVD. Because Xbox partnered with this and had a little add-on you could buy and then plug into it that matched it. It was an HD DVD player. I was like, yes, finally. I started buying HD DVDs. I have all my DVDs saved in a bin.
Yeah.
Like a bunch of bins, actually. I have my Blu-rays and I have probably 15 HD DVDs that are completely useless. I can't do anything with them, but it reminds me of a transitional period of my life and a reminder to not always go with the obvious name that's going to be more successful.
Yeah, I mean, just to catch everybody up, if you're not there, kids and probably mostly adults, HD DVD and Blu-ray came out pretty much at the same time and were a battle to see what the supremacy was going to be after DVDs. Sony went Blu-ray, Xbox chose HD DVD, which just sounds awful to say.
I think Sony might have had a hand in inventing Blu-ray. What the kicker was between that fight, because it's not worth an entire episode, and it can be summed up as easy as this. Disney went with Blu-ray. So that's why Blu-ray ended up being more successful.
Wasn't it that in the porno industry?
Yes, it was. We hope to revisit that in the history of pornography episode. We'll have to.
Yes. Yeah. So HD DVD gets beat by the smut peddlers.
And Mickey Mouse.
It gets beat by by the mouse.
It gets beat off by Mickey Mouse. He's like, oh yeah.
And it gets
get out of here, HD DVD.
Beat off by Sony too. So HD DVD looks like a major mistake looking back on it. That's where they went, but also backwards compatibility.
Mm-hmm.
All those Xbox games, that Xbox library, those 2 first Halos that come out, boom, we're playing those. When Halo 3 releases on 360, what are we doing for the first week leading up to Halo 3 coming out?
Exactly, we're beating 1 and 2.
We're banging through everything just to get excited for this.
That was a thing. That was a thing you did during sleepover.
Yeah.
Was you just popped all 3 of them in, you just ran the train on them. Get yourself some Code Red Mountain Dew, some Little Caesars pizza. What?
Yeah, but Xbox must have had some faith in the Kinetic, and I think it sold well enough. Or Kinect, whatever.
With a K.
Yeah. Kinect, I feel like the movement, I don't know.
I think it was supposed to be Kinect and Kinetic, and they just tried to shorten it and keep it with the K.
They had a lot of faith in it going forward, which is, I think, misplaced, and we'll talk about it. But first, we got to talk about the biggest debacle that PlayStation might have ever been a part of. November 17th, 2006, a year after Xbox 360 has its run, we're probably through some, maybe most of the Red Ring of Death problems. PS3 releases, and it was just doomed from the start. From the E3 talk that they gave 2 years before that, when they said they were coming out a year later, and they were coming out with a 20 gigabyte that was $500 and a 60 gigabyte that was $600. And as soon as Microsoft hears that, they think, ka-ching, we're already beating these assholes.
Mm-hmm. We can afford, technically closer to their launch, to maybe drop ours even more to make it look that much better.
And it just absolutely hampered their business coming out of the gate. Now, over the lifetime, again, 87.4 million units sold, so it does catch up, but it takes a lot. I will say this,
and I'll just tip my hat to you. PlayStation overall sales beat Xbox every single time.
They just already had the market.
Yeah.
If you already have a loyal fan base, Xbox was creating a fan base, whereas PlayStation...
Gamers are disgustingly loyal folks until you fucking cross them.
Hey, I'm right there.
One thing, too, that I think led to the PS3 not being successful is they tried and they were really... This was their time to lean into the whole home solution.
Bad choice.
This thing was going to be... we didn't talk about this during the first episode because this is the only time it's ever really applied with this whole home thing. I don't know how most people are, but I assume I base things off of the people like me and you and other people I know. No one that I know that plays video games has their video game console in the family room or in where the main TV is. it's in another room, so you can go to that room to have some peace to yourself, but also because you're going in there just to play video games. That's what the room is for. You're going in there to play.
You're not fighting for TV time. Nope. There's not 10 million people walking in and out of the house, slamming doors.
And because it's not in that room, it does not need to do anything that your living room TV needs to do or handle. It doesn't need to be your connection to the internet to be Internet Explorer. It doesn't need to get all of those things that control different aspects of, your home or whatever else it could do. PS3 leans a little bit too hard into this and gets too far away from being just about video games. And again, I think this is where you're listening to feedback where you get decisions made maybe by people that aren't really people that play the games.
Yeah, I don't know. This does feel like more of, I guess, what we'll see is an error, because this isn't the last time we're going to be talking about this, but that push into whole home entertainment really starts to hamper things, because their launch was terrible because of shipping failures and the cost of the unit. And in order, just like we were talking about with Xbox losing a bunch of money on the Xbox One because they were loading it up with so much stuff and knowing that it was going to be a loss.
Do you mean the 360? Oh, the next one.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we will talk about it.
That's the one thing I hate about the Xbox naming system is PS1, PS2. It's so simple.
So easy.
I know where we're at. I'll run through them. Xbox 360, Xbox One, Xbox One X, Xbox Series X and S. Like, I don't know what we're doing here, guys. Just put a number. Just even start with the number now. You could have started with 1.
Yeah.
And then you could have gone 2.0, 3.0, and no one would have said anything.
0.0 is enough of a differentiator to sound better.
Exactly. It sounds very technical.
But at this point in time, there will never be another gaming console that will ever make money. Everything is going to be a lead anchor that you tie around your neck, and you will be buoyed up by your software sales, but your hardware sales are always going to be a loss. And PlayStation had put so much extra into it that they needed to try to mitigate their loss by having a higher price tag. So the shipping failures that it took to get all of this hardware in and make sure that everybody had enough supply hurts you. And also all of those things that made it fail in the shipping now cost you more money. Price drops in the game catalog, which is insane, help bolster these bad beginning sales numbers. There was a couple other things they did as far as once they got into it, the price drops happen because they create, I believe it's the PS3 Slim and then the PS3 Ultra Slim. There was like 2 different versions where it kept getting smaller.
Yeah.
Which I guess smaller means that it's cheaper because the components cost less. I don't know what the size has to do with
I kind of think that's probably general. You find out that you don't need as much cooling system or fan or something like that.
Yeah. But all in all, it took them so long to make these 87 million in sales that it just basically gave Xbox that much more of a runway to create their household name.
Well, and here's something that did come out, and it's going to lead into the Xbox One debacle, but I like that we keep getting to say the word debacle. We don't get to say that word enough during this podcast.
Great word.
This is where the Wii gets launched during this time frame. So Nintendo comes out and...
We can't get to it yet because I got to talk about maybe the lamest thing that PlayStation did.
Okay.
So just like the Kinect with the 360, PlayStation wants to do this movement type gaming. And they came out with, it's on that one, the PS Move. The PS Move, unlike Kinect, had this wand controller. Now, this wand controller happened to bear a very striking resemblance to a Hitachi vibrator. And
it lights up at the top.
Yeah, so a fancy Hitachi vibrator, I guess.
A high end. But okay, just to get my timing right, does the Wii come, because this is in response to the Wii, correct?
We're just setting that up as far as like, this was just like we taled about.
This is what forced the Kinect and everything. Okay.
This is what forces their hand. PlayStation immediately goes on the attack against Kinect and puts out these ad campaigns where this guy comes on and is talking about the difference between the Kinect and the PS Move was that the PS Move had buttons. How silly do you feel in front of the Kinect making a fake gun with your hand? What are we, 3 years old? Just completely degrading them. If you want to move on beyond something of catching a big red ball that's not really there, you're going to go with the PS Move. Just direct shots at Xbox.
Oh, yeah.
Just trying to do whatever they can to try to cheapen this whole Kinect idea. And it's so funny the way that they just take these pot shots. But like we talked about, one thing that buoys PlayStation 3 is this catalog that they had. We're talking about GTA 4 and 5, Gran Turismo 5, Metal Gear Solid 4. All of these titles that are coming out are just hit after hit after hit. And it is enough to be like, all right, we had to wait for this thing. We had to wait for the price to drop. It had its hardware flaws too. I think I had 2 PlayStation 3s. Funny enough, the first PlayStation 3 that I got was for Christmas, and my mom found a lady on eBay whose son had gone out and bought one.
Of course.
And she traded her 3 Princess Diana Beanie Babies in order to get me this PlayStation 3 because you couldn't find them.
That's a steep cost.
It was a steep cost. And that's what we start to see when you have these times where you can't get the supply to the demand, is it creates these secondary markets that are insane. We're going to talk about it with PlayStation and Xbox Series X, is you get mad when you see what the price of these things are. But then when they're in short supply and somebody can double that price and you're mad enough and you want it enough, you're going to pay for it. So you're going to bitch about the price.
Or you're upset because you know someone will do it.
Yeah.
And just the principle of the matter is shitty.
It's just, it sucks. But to have that catalog, I think, kind of saved PS3. And they were great games. 4 and 5 GTA were fantastic. Gran Turismo, again, these racing games that they come out with just get better and better and better.
Not only that, but racing games, those are like the games that have worldwide appeal. Yeah.
The F1 market loves Gran Turismo, I'm sure. Metal Gear Solid 4, of course, is just going to be a solid entrance.
It's got a recognizable name. It's, people are familiar with it.
So, all
right. I want to set you up for it.
Okay.
Xbox has felt compelled to create a motion sensor system. And it was pretty quick that they got it done.
Yeah.
The guy that was in charge of it he went to 3 different, not like within Microsoft, but companies that work for him and found like the thermal imaging from this one, face recognition from this one. But that actually made the 360 more popular with families. Because now all of a sudden you can game together and there's that appeal to it, which I think is in actuality probably just like the dad wanting the Xbox and the mom being like, well, what about this one? This one's all for family and everything like that. You know the one I'm talking about. And he's like, but this one has this new thing where it's motion control and it's really, really fun. I just want fucking Gears of War so badly. She's like, okay, you can get it. Yes. But the Kinect is actually successful enough that it kind of overinflates its value going into the future, which in turn is going to cause some stuff to go down. You have PlayStation then investing in this motion control thing. Why are these guys both doing it?
Well, because they were chasing the winner of this generation war, and that winner comes out November 19th, 2006, when Nintendo drops the Wii. The Wii kind of gave this console world something different, something that I don't know if I really saw coming, to be honest. Like the first time that I saw a Wii and saw how it worked, it was kind of kitschy and fun, but I had never really had that desire to go back to a 2-button system. I guess a 2-button and a trigger, I think, were on the Wii.
It's not even that, because you're not even really using the controller for anything. That's not the gimmick of it. That's to navigate and go through menus and confirm stuff.
Yeah.
And you use it for some games, but I like to think of the Wii is just basically being like, here, buy this. It's for your whole family. It's cheaper. You can get it as a family Christmas present instead of buying 3 $100 gifts. Buy one $99 gift.
Well, yeah, and we're sitting there talking about the technological arms race that PlayStation and Microsoft have going on in their war.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wii comes out with the hot, fashionable new technology of infrared motion tracking. Like shit that we've had for decades.
Yes, with the controller and everything. They've just found a way to make it to where, and it's also like, hey, yeah, get it. It's healthy. You'll play Wii Sports and exercise, which in all honesty, if it gets people up, fucking more power to them. But Wii Sports, that's the only game I played. And in my opinion, kind of with the Wii, if you're going to buy it, that's the only game you need.
Well, if I wanted to go swing a tennis racket, I'd just go outside and swing a tennis racket.
Yeah,
like
a lot of people aren't getting in the car and driving down there. But
No.
if Nana can stand up and they're like, go, Nana, go, and she's playing with her grandson and everything, yeah. How many wholesome moments were caught on film because of the Nintendo Wii?
And that's, you bundle the Wii coming out with Wii Sports because it's going to be your strongest title.
Sorry, $249 is the cost that it came out.
Okay.
Still cheaper than the others, though.
Yeah, and it's still advanced enough in something new that it gets people interested. This whole idea of controlling your character with a wand on the screen and being able to do all of these different things. Not to mention, even though you have a controller and they had a chuck, I think that was on the other side is what they called it. But if
You could. It almost looked like just something you hold that had a joystick on the thumb.
And then I think it had a trigger on it as well.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is if you have this motion controlled controller and you have all of these Wii games, you can do stupid kitschy shit. Like you can sell a Wii golf club or a Wii tennis racket that you attach the controller to be able to swing. You get into something called Wii Fit, where they sell these Wii boards that you can do all of these workouts on, and it tracks you on the screen and shows you, what you did this, what you did that.
The best times I've had playing Wii were either drinking or smoking. And that right there, you go play that at a friend's house. I'm not even kidding. If you go over, you have a couple's night with somebody else and they have a Wii and you're playing and you're like, this is the most fun thing ever. Go out and buy one?
Oh, you know what else it was? It was the number one most dangerous thing to a flat screen TV that there ever was.
Oh, yeah. They came out of the box with the wrist straps,
little wrist tether that you were supposed to put. Nobody put it on. And the amount of pictures that you see on the internet of a Wii remote controller either sticking out of a wall or sticking out of a TV, it's endless.
And you know that stuff was getting intense during that.
Yeah. And you get into it. Part of the reason why Nintendo was able to bounce back so hard after taking such a big tumble with the GameCube was something that we talked about during round one. They made all of this money off of the handheld market. They had enough of a cash pile because I want to say it's Nintendo DS is like the second or third best selling gaming machine ever.
It's because it's not really expensive, but it allowed you, I think, to get like a whole catalog of Nintendo games. It's the one that had like you flip the screen up, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But also we're talking about Game Boy Color and Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It was huge. It was, didn't ever play it, don't really understand it. There was also this kind of idea that we were talking about with the LAN parties. You had a connection cable that you could put between two Game Boys. I think it was two Game Boy Colors to where you could do battle between these two things.
That's right.
So there's a little bit of camaraderie that's going on, and you're building up from the Game Boy, the Game Boy Advance, Game Boy Colors. I believe it was the Nintendo DS, which again is leading towards the Switch. It's leading towards this hybrid of this console gaming.
Oh, don't forget
mobile.
The successful Virtual Boy. The one that I was telling you about on the little tripod that was red and you had to like stick your face into it and everything.
Yeah, so this completely exterior market from this home console business is enough money to where if they take a loss, if they take a wash on the GameCube, it doesn't really affect them because they still have this other stream of income that's making money hand over fist.
And how much money did it cost to really produce the Wii?
Probably not a ton.
No.
There wasn't a lot to it. Like we talked about with the look and the shape of these things, there's really nothing to a Wii. A Wii almost looks like a big external hard drive.
And it faces up at a 45-degree angle, so you can,
Pretty forgettable. If you have some sort of a modern decor, it kind of fits in. But the proof is in the pudding. And there's a reason why we talked about how come this won this generation's war. It's because it reached lifetime sales of 101 million units. These non-traditional audiences that hadn't really had this core gamer, I have to have a controller in my hand, I have to be standing in front of this and just sitting and watching everything. It gives somebody a reason to come to video games.
This is inside baseball stuff, but when you look at a controller now, if you hadn't grown up with that controller, I feel like the way that normal people look at the people that don't play video games look at a video game controller is how I look at an F1 steering wheel.
Yeah.
That's got all the knobs and everything. They don't know what anything does. To me, I know what all that stuff does for every game. And it's just second nature. Like, how do you not, like, if I catch myself sometimes if my kid is like, which one do I press again? I'm just like, the green one. But then I'll remember that newer controllers don't even have colors because they know exactly, everyone knows where everything is. With the Wii, and that's a huge hurdle and scares people away from even trying games because if you're getting frustrated doing something, you're not going to have fun. Here, Nana, hold this and just swing it like you would a golf club or a tennis racket. Oh my God, the person on the screen ended up hitting and then she strokes out because it's so amazing.
I know that you've heard this before in your life because I heard it too. You've heard your dad say, "What button is punch again?" Like, there's a time playing with parents where they don't have the same kind of memory. They just don't do it as much. There's no muscle memory. So they're forgetting, like, what button makes you punch, what button makes you shoot.
That's why I love this generation so much, is because we're going to be in it with our kids playing.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine the connection that's going to be available in the next, I'm looking forward to maybe in, I'll figure 20, 25 years. So I've got a little bit of time, but maybe he's got a family and everything. And I'm chilling out, hopefully be retired or still doing this shit, but doing it on the scale we want to do it. And just getting on and being like, how often do you talk to your dad? Oh, we actually jump on Xbox or we jump on this and we actually game together a few nights a week.
Yeah.
That's going to be a thing.
We talked yesterday about a new release that's coming out, anything like that. There's a different kind of bond that I think comes with video games that we're going to have that older generations just didn't have. But as far as just how the Wii kind of encapsulated everybody, to be able to do that and to shut out the giant of PlayStation in this emerging console builder of Xbox, of Microsoft. Nintendo just beat Microsoft.
You kept it simple and it worked.
Yeah. But again, this is also to the detriment of, these are terms that get thrown around. I don't like the word gamer, just like I don't like the word foodie. Like, I play video games. I'm not a gamer. And I'm sure that it's kind of like, if you get paid to do something, that's when you become that thing.
Yes, it used to be before there was people getting paid to do it. If you're a gamer, you're just playing it. But what a gamer used to be is now what a professional gamer is.
Yeah.
I doubt I'm a casual player of entertainment video games.
Yeah. So they did something that I don't think anybody really saw coming. Part of the reason why it had such a great launch and it did so well was Nintendo put a $200 million ad campaign in North America to back it. So these ads are everywhere.
It was a system for everyone.
Yeah.
I think is the biggest thing that was being pushed. And so it didn't alienate people that were kind of intimidated to try to get into it just kind of due to the complexity, because games are now getting longer. They're getting more complex. Games are having production value, man. Games have studio quality sound.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is where you're getting games that, like we've talked about with Halo, where there are $100 million budgets to these games. And I'm trying to remember what year it happened. It was pretty early on. The video game industry right now surpasses both the movie and music industry in terms, those two combined. The video game industry outstrips those as far as the money that it makes.
Well, we didn't mention it in the first round, but GoldenEye actually made twice as much money as the movie GoldenEye.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense because the game was actually like $50 and a ticket for the movie.
Yeah,
so you could get, and back in that time, movie tickets were probably all go $7. So you could send 4 people or 6 people to the movie.
True, but
the game was much more fun.
Just to think about how these two industries that one's catching up to the other, it's like, we're going to take your IP, we're going to make
it
twice as much money
so quickly. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing we forgot to mention about PlayStation 3 that I just saw on the board. I don't know why it's... Oh, no, we're good. That's 4. That's another just debacle that comes up. But yeah, it's tough to shit on the Wii. The Wii wasn't for me. It wasn't something that I ever really enjoyed. Had a couple great tennis matches. Had bowled a couple 300s. You know, that's the only time in my life I'm ever going to say that I was able to bowl a 300 was on a Wii.
Where did you play it at?
My mom's house.
I knew it. Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly where you would play it.
A Wii has never entered my house.
Yep. I never had a Wii in my house, but I've been in houses that have a Wii.
Jumping up into this next gen, it's kind of weird because the order changes so much. We have Wii dropping, I believe it was last for that generation. Then all of a sudden they turn around November 18th, 2012. They are first into the ring and just go ahead and drop a second. Sir, a second shit has landed in the pants because they dropped the Wii U. Now, you could put a Wii U in a lineup of all other game consoles, and the only reason that I could pick it out is because I know all of the other consoles.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you what a Wii U looks like. I've never held one.
You would use process of elimination of all the other consoles
exactly.
that you're aware of, yes.
Yeah. This thing drops for $349. So we've moved pretty far off of where the Wii's price point was. They later have to drop it to $300. $299. They only end up selling 13.56 million units. Just a bad drop. But they were the first to support these HD graphics for Nintendo. So they're still making moves forward. Terrible interface. The hardware for it was awful. The battery life, again, like we talked about with the Game Gear, except for this time it's Nintendo that falls.
Oh, it was a handheld.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it had I think it had a screen to it. I don't know how good it was, but I think it was kind of like the trip and fall before the Switch.
Okay.
Like it was the accident before they created the masterpiece.
We learned not to do that anymore.
Yeah, or we just learned how to do it better. So it sucked. And this launch lineup that it comes with, because it was rushed so quick after the Wii, it just didn't have any titles for it.
It was trying to capitalize on the heat of the Wii.
They go right back to it that way.
You can't go wee. You can't go wee. You can't go wee-wees back to back like that.
No, it's just a bad choice. Wii 2 probably would have been a bad name for it. So Wii U is not much better. November 15th, 2013. So we have a year and change that the Wii U had a chance to just beat itself. PS4 launches. It was awesome. There was no PS3 reverse compatibility, which again, we've talked about is so important on these new titles. It had some PS2 compatibility, no PS1 compatibility. I don't know how in the world it skips 3 and has some with 2. It sells for $399 off the shelf. Career lifetime units sold is 113 million. So again, we're getting back up there. We're back in the triple digits after dropping off on the PS3. This is the PS network that gets launched with more of a focus on this social interaction. All of this thing that Xbox Live has been building, this camaraderie online. PlayStation is finally on board, and they want to put this interface together.
I love watching the press conferences when they come out, and it's like, it's not just about games. It's about an interactive community of gamers together, and you're just like, you don't even fucking play that thing, man.
Yeah, your kids play it. Yeah. There's one in your house, but
are they watching right now? Make it more entertaining.
We also get them catching back up to Xbox because they had already dropped these digital download titles. Now PS4 is doing the same thing. PS4 is selling games online, so you don't have to go pick up a hard copy and download it on there. They redid their controller. It had this kind of integrated touchpad that was pretty interesting. 4K resolution. Again, this is a situation where 4K resolution is great if you have a 4K resolution TV.
I feel like this one is, you had like the bit battles, like the 16-bit, the 32 and everything. This one is just it's weird to say, but like if you look at the graphics between this gen and last gen, there's some games where it's really noticeable, but across the board, not really. There's just a desire to have the new shiny shit because it's the newest shiny shit.
That's on record as an Xbox opinion and a PlayStation 5 opinion.
I'm just telling you. You're saying that there was such a jump between the PS4 and the PS5.
It's incredible.
Well, then they weren't doing shit.
It's amazing. It's
then they
absolutely
had
incredible.
too much room to improve. Xbox, it just doesn't jump because they're already way up there.
All right.
Once you're at the top of the mountain, there isn't as much mountain to climb. You realize that, right?
We're about to talk about how high up on the mountain they were.
We're taking a bathroom break right before that, so get up to that point and then let me know because I need to pee.
Okay. It doesn't support any cross-platform movement still. This performance advantage is kind of I don't know. There's really nothing going on. This was the chips that we were talking about in PS3 and 360 were the same.
Mm-hmm.
Is there going to be that same kind of idea with PS4 and then whatever Xbox throws out with this next one coming up? It's kind of tough because, again, I'm painting a little bit of a picture leading into this. They didn't participate in something that were called DRM resale measures. And basically what this meant was an attempt to kill the secondary market of games, because you buy a game, you play a game, you're done with it, you need a little extra scratch to go buy your new game, you go ahead and go to a GameStop where they're going to bend you over and show you the 50 states,
Mm-hmm.
you try to sell it online, something just to get a little bit of money out of this. We're coming up to a time when there starts to be questions of should these games be resold? Huge market for gamers, huge market for people that buy your product. You're probably not good to piss them off. PlayStation 4 had marketed themselves as a console for gamers. So we took a shot at this. We're in home. We're going to do everything full in-home entertainment.
We realized we poo-pooed last time.
Yes, exactly.
We learned. We didn't poo-poo with this one. So they keep allowing them to like do the used games and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, we want you guys back.
Yeah.
We want to listen to what you hated about the PS3 and put it in the PS4. And now we have to talk about the Xbox, but we do need to take a bathroom break.
All right. Oh my God, Adam. What is that up in the sky? It's a bird.
It's a plane.
It's socials. Oh my God. It's faster than Instagram.
That's historically high pod on Instagram.
More powerful than X.
It's historically high, historically HI on X.
Able to leap tall threads in a single bound.
Back to historically high pod on Threads.
And, I mean, I guess there's still Gmail, right?
We got that too. That is historically high podcast at gmail.com.
All right, guys, back to the show. All right, so let's talk about my poo-poo. So, as if the PS3 was made in a bubble and nothing about its release or the negatives around its release were ever seen by anyone working at Xbox or Microsoft, the PS1 is released on November 13th.
Xbox One.
Sorry. Yes. The Xbox One. See,
Don't you sully the PlayStation name with what's about to happen.
I love the
went through
PS1. I
this.
was a PS1 guy. I'm sorry. The Xbox One. I try to get it out of my head so I don't even remember its name. It comes out November of 2013 for $499. Now they both come out. The PS4 and the Xbox One come out in the same month. Now that at this point they're
7 days apart.
Yeah, they're trying to go and match each other, shot for shot. Now, they pretty much do everything that made the PS3 unsuccessful. They just turned around and did that with the Xbox One.
And more.
So their focus was to, hey, you know how successful, how the Kinect was, everyone loved it? Yeah, we're going to go and make that like the core of this thing. We're going to center so much stuff around this, and it's always going to be on. So it's always going to be sensing stuff, and it'll always have to be connected to the internet. So the Xbox will, to make sure it's getting all of the updates that it can get.
So that means that if it's 1 o'clock in the morning and you're sneaking around in your birthday suit out to grab a cookie or maybe get a water, anything like that, this Xbox Kinect is going to be picking up your movements.
Yeah, when they said it, they didn't realize how it sounded to all the people hearing it for the first time. Like, oh, you're going to be watching this all. Like, what's going on here?
You're perverts. Okay.
Yeah, we're not even deep into this yet. So because of the Kinect being required now as part of the package, that's what actually tacked on an additional $100. So that's why we're up at this $499 price tag. In addition to that, they leaned super heavy into the total home entertainment, total home system, where all of you can like search from here and you can access apps and do all this stuff with the marketplace. And during the initial launch for the Xbox One, they have all of these, like, this is at a point where they're now streaming. So they're streaming this release. I don't know if it was at E3 or not. I assume it would have to either be a private trade show or E3. And they have all of these like big gaming influencers and gamers that people are following watching this. And as the guy goes out to announce it, he's announcing all of these features. They're not mentioning like games. They're not showing footage. It's very minimal as far as for a gaming system. So he comes off stage while I think they're playing a little video, and one of the like marketing women have a laptop pulled up and is monitoring, and he's like, "How's it going?" She's like, "Not good, not good at all." And so I think this was a private announcement because when they did go to E3 that year, they focused more on games. But
also a bad subject.
Go ahead.
Well, how we talked about PlayStation not supporting this idea of these DRM resale measures.
Yes.
Yeah.
That part.
Continue on. Pay the piper. Take your penance. I had to do it with PS3.
So as if all of this other stuff wasn't enough to make people feel kind of iffy, they're now like, oh, by the way, just a small thing right at the end. No more buying and selling used games. Everyone's like, what? That's an entire, and do you know how many people get their library just from going and trading in, their games and getting new ones and all that kind of
Absolutely.
stuff? That's part of the gaming culture. There was a ritual behind that in which you would go through your games, deciding which one would pay the ultimate sacrifice of only getting $10 or $5 out of it, 5 or 6 of them to all go toward a new release. I
volunteer for the gas to get
who
you
volunteers as tribute to sacrifice themselves? Well, no more doing that. So
what was the system that it would be? It was you would go buy the game, you would download the game, but it would download to your Xbox Live account.
So it would be on your Xbox Live. It was like think of it as like a one-time use thing. The game was just there to be able to go ahead and get the game onto your Xbox.
Just a vessel.
Yes. Something because people were still liking holding a symbolic game. It wasn't full digital at that point. There was still, you like to touch it.
Makes a man feel good.
But no, now that you're touching it, now you realize that you will never be rid of it because it's useless outside of this. So this whole thing, pretty much from the onset, this kind of spoils the party for the Xbox One. Full disclosure, I 100% did buy an Xbox One. I didn't notice any issues with it because I just turned the Kinect around, or I don't know if I even plugged it in to use it. Eventually, they did learn their lesson, and it did not take them long because pretty quickly they got rid of the requirement for the Kinect. And then I think the thing actually dropped down, or they made an additional version of it for like, they never made another version of that one. Just stupid across the board.
They also did something that was pretty dirty, and I don't know quite how. I don't know, private company, whatever, or publicly traded company, but you don't have to do this for some reason. They only publish sales figures during their first year after release. So after that first year, they stopped reporting sales numbers. They did do, I believe it was 10 million shipped as of November 2014. So we're talking about a year, 10 million in the first year. Pretty good. But if
you don't have to say that.
Well, I'm assuming that this is before most of the price drops, because price drops are usually when they get the bulk of their sales on stuff. So I don't know what it is. Nobody knows besides Microsoft what it did after this first year. I'm not sure why they did it. If they were bummed about it, I don't know. Probably wasn't good.
This is going to be a little bit of a personal journey on this one. What do you do with your old systems, your old consoles?
They're somewhere in this house.
Okay. That's all I need to know. I'm the same. I just wanted to see if that was weird or not. One is behind the TV in my bedroom. Mm-hmm. It has not been. I don't even know if it's plugged in. I assume not. Covered in dust. I don't even know the last time I used it. And that was the one before. The other one is in a box out in the garage.
The only time I did it, I kept the PS3 that broke, the original, the one that my mom traded the Beanie Babies for, just for sentimental value. I did sell my 3 to upgrade to the 4.
There were 3 spirits of Princess Diana Beanie Babies within the vessel of that case. So, would you like to say anything else about do we need to talk about the Xbox One any further, or are we moving on?
No, they did do a couple better things, I think, after the price drop happens. And I would say it's pretty historical because the Xbox One S and the all digital end up dropping console prices to $249 and $200. All digital. Now, this means that we've come to the point in time to where you don't have to have a disc port on the front and you can just download all your games off of online.
I know. It's ironic. I like the disc port.
Yeah.
It makes me feel safe because I grew up with discs.
It's the same thing as wanting to hold a disc in your hand.
It is. But I'm not going out to buy a game.
No.
I get them all digital.
Nope.
That's why I pay for the internet. I'm a fucking adult.
Exactly.
I don't need to drive out and buy my games anymore.
Yeah. This again, maybe this was just anger coming from Nintendo dropping the ball so bad with the Wii U, which I'd be pretty pissed if I did it too. March 3rd, 2017. So it's almost like this breaks the cycle. Like this breaks this kind of everybody releases around the same time cycle. Nintendo drops a Switch, and then they drop a Lite, and then they drop an OLED. Price points were $299, $199, and then $349 respectively. As of 2024, the Switch has sold 150 million units.
Yeah.
Or at least they've shipped 150 million units.
It's easy to use.
And it's kind of the perfect bridge that we were talking about between the Wii and the 64 almost.
In an age of, tablets and car rides and all that good stuff, there's something so valuable about something that can make your child quiet in the back.
I can imagine,
You can just listen to the radio or enjoy a simple conversation with the person you're riding with. And the Switch, I think, filled that niche. Also, like commuting and everything, why not pull that thing out? Can't the Switch run apps?
Yeah, so basically what you can do is it can be used just docked for a home console, just like everything else.
Yeah, it's got
just
a little dock with all the handles.
Or you can take it out as a portable device. So they actually went through and built up the I don't remember what the Nintendo Online is, but it does support online gaming. You can buy and sell things, or you can buy things off of their network system. And I believe you can run a couple other Nintendo things. I don't think there's any third-party apps or anything like that you can get.
Okay, it's just Nintendo versions of whatever it is. I have seen a Switch. My nephew has a Switch. They look beautiful. I haven't played it.
I'll probably never play a Switch in my life.
I get it.
It
looks cool as shit.
A lot of respect for it. And the other thing, too, is this is kind of the first home console swipe at mobile gaming that's become so huge on cell phones.
Yeah.
Like this is kind of like hey, this is still our space. I understand that you guys are making a lot of cheap money off of people by using these upgrades, these online in-game microtransactions.
Oh, fuck. Don't even say that.
It just shit drives me nuts, but it really is.
That's one of the worst things to come out of gaming is those fucking microtransactions.
It's crack.
I sound like an angry old man, like fucking microtransactions.
No, man, that's what it is. It is literally crack. That's all that it is. It's one hit that lasts for 45 minutes, and then you need another one after, so you buy more shit.
But you get the first couple tastes for free.
Yeah. Again, I will never play a Switch. I watch the videos on this Zelda Breath of the Wild. It's one of the most stunning things that I've ever seen. The world is just beautiful. It was their launch game. This blows me away. 2023, there were 2,360 games released for the Switch.
That's got to include just the entire back catalog of every Nintendo game. They were just like, you're not going to touch a fraction of these games or anything, but no one else can claim that.
Yeah, and we're right on the cusp again. The Switch 2 is slated June 5th, 2025. I don't know if it'll get pushed back. That seems really close for, I think, as little as gotten.
Better keep his fucking mouth shut around my kid in regards to that.
Yeah, I don't know what tariffs are going to do to it here in the States. I think it's going to be pretty expensive. But just the fact that they're already loading up a Switch 2, I'm curious to see what it is. And I might play a Switch 2.
We don't pay the tariffs.
Yeah.
We don't pay the other countries that are shipping it.
Yeah. It's solid economic standing. Now we're to the current generation. And I had completely forgotten about this happening. I think I pretty much blanked out most of 2020. November 10th, 2020, the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S, because we can't have easy names, release for $499 and $299 respectively.
I know that, okay, again, Xbox, you have an opportunity here. I don't know what your next console is called. I'm looking forward to finding out. But if you're going to do Xbox Series, you got to start earlier in the alphabet because you are not leaving yourself a lot of places to go after X. And I know you got to do X because it's Xbox, and S because Series S just sounds fucking cool. You can't be like, hey, it's a Series D or a Series Q. Like, that doesn't sound cool. But just some continuity within the series of these things.
Think about English. Series Z.
Or
Series Z sounds sick.
Or name them something different. Like one of my Xboxes, the initial project to make it was called Project Scorpio. So they had a version of that.
Yeah.
Do names like that.
Well, unless you're talking about the first one, because we forgot to mention it. It's hilarious. We always have to talk about World War II in an episode. I don't care when it happens. It always seems like World War II comes
We're
up.
not forcing it in. It finds its way in.
The initial project name for the first Xbox was Project Midway, because that was the turning point in the Pacific War
Against the Japanese.
So we really hit it on the nose with that. The Series X comes out. There were around 30 million shipped. And again, we're talking 2020. The supply chain was absolutely smashed during that point in time. So there wasn't really a whole lot that was getting out there that drives this massive spike in the secondary market.
So there were the two. Okay, so it was the X for $499. Essentially, just I believe had both the disk drive and an additional hard drive, and then the Series S for $299,
which was all digital.
Yes.
So you're going to be getting a lot better deal on that. That one feels different because I want to say...
What are you saying? The people that bought the $499 one because they wanted to have a disk drive because it makes them feel comfortable, that like those are lesser people?
No, because PlayStation isn't quite as dramatic. PlayStation's only 100 difference, whereas Xbox is 200 difference.
But what is the 100 difference lower it down to?
Well,
you're just saying that
from 500
you're just saying
to 300
Xbox just makes it cheaper, so I don't know what you're
no,
trying
it's
to
a
get
good
away
thing.
with that.
That's not an attack. I understand why you're on edge. That's not an attack. A crazy thing that they start doing is they kind of start to pull this Ford model, whereas Ford had the financing plans to be able to go out and buy these things and be the bank. Xbox has something called an all access financial plan.
It's rent an Xbox.
Yeah.
Except you can pay enough into it that you get it at the end, right? You pay for it for I think like 18 to 24 months.
Yeah, this is, except for if you don't, then there's an interest rate that gets tacked on and then you're making money off your money. And it's a strategy that sucks for the consumer, but it's awesome for the producer.
Gotta have that Xbox.
Yeah. More graphically powerful than any of the previous Microsoft consoles. I would probably say even more graphically.
You can say it.
Yeah, more graphically powerful
than the PS5.
Than the PS5.
Okay, thank you.
That hurt.
Like, this shit means nothing because you understand that we would play a game as long as it's fun, even if it looked like,
better resolution and frame rate. There's more detailed characters, and this is another thing where it can host, not host, but it can meet up to 8K resolution. Now, again, you have to have a TV that supports 8K resolution to be able to get the max out of it.
We're seeing people's pores at this point. Listen, this is bringing up a lot of stuff for me. We're getting too high on the definition, ladies and gentlemen. It's looking too real. We're losing the point. TV and movies are supposed to look a certain way, and when they start looking like, it looks creepy.
You're supposed to know you're playing a game.
Yes, exactly.
We're passing that.
I also think it's unnecessary.
Yeah.
How much are you charging me because you can say it does 8K? Do you know how many people do not have 8K TVs?
Well, and that's sort of the idea.
99% of the people buying these do not have an 8K. Then maybe they got a 4K within the last year.
This was an idea. I don't remember if it was the 360 or the one, but I think it was the 360.
Couldn't have been the one. All shit there.
They looked at it and they put I believe it was a processor that was like peak on an HD TV. But the market of HD TVs that people owned weren't there.
Probably would have been the 360 around that time frame.
So they say, well, we're going to put it anyway, or we're going to put it in anyway because on release date, the market for HD TVs will be so affordable that more people will have them.
You got to buy a TV with your new gaming system.
It's just planning ahead. So if you say it can support up to 8K resolution at this point in time, in 2027, 8K might be the standard that you would have in a TV. So it's just trying to put something in there that will eventually meet the market.
I think they're just doing it to charge you more.
And to say that they did it. November 12th, 2020. So we're talking 2 days apart. Sony drops the PS5. They drop a base model, they drop a digital, and they drop a Pro. I would like to play a Pro just to kind of see what it is, respectively $499, $399, and $699. $700 for a Pro. I don't know what in the world that thing does, but if it doesn't have a hole where you can put things in, I don't know what in the world you can get
Not
out
a
of it.
sharp hole either. Nice, soft, warm hole.
Velvet like puppy ears.
And a better order you DoorDash afterward too.
75 million units sold so far. Probably the coolest feature, and it's kind of something that you have to feel.
Did you not write down the units sold for the Xbox Series?
They don't. Around 30 million units were shipped, but their numbers aren't. They don't tell.
I retract my accusation of you trying to, skew this to one side or another.
Yeah. So probably the coolest upgrade is the controllers now have something called haptic feedback. And basically what that is, if you are pulling a trigger for like to accelerate a car or anything like that, as it goes over different terrains, the resistance that you have to pull down on the triggers,
your finger off it like it would, like if you're moving in a car,
it pushes back. Exactly. If you are hitting a turbo in a game and you're running out of turbo, you start to feel it release and get lighter and lighter. So you kind of know what's going on.
I love that we still call it turbo instead of just like sprint.
Yeah. Well, either way, we've been taught through football games that it's always turbo. Another very cool feature of it involving the controller is in flight games, you can actually control your, you can
move it up and down to kind of pitch and yaw.
You rock the controller down, you're headed down.
That might be the right
up,
terminology. I'm not sure.
Pulling up, I don't know either. But they're kind of bringing a little bit of that Wii feel to the controller while still having a very nice controller. I would say the PS5 is probably the best controller I've ever used besides the Dreamcast controller.
Is it the white one that looks pretty clean and solid on it? Okay.
Yeah. But
does the thing ever discolor with the hand sweat and everything?
I bought black ones just because I ended up dropping the first one. And apparently when you drop the haptic shock triggers on themselves, they stop haptically shocking.
Okay.
So
is this a individual thing, or is this you get that buildup of like the oil and the grease from your skin on it that you have to kind of get
you just play so long. I clean mine probably once a month.
Okay, I do too, but I'm saying that the fact that you even get that buildup, that you're just like, how long am I fucking holding this thing? And how disgusting of a creature am I?
You start to think that the rubber's coming off because it's peeling off, and it turns out it ain't rubber.
Yeah, it's just from you.
It's a bad deal. Yeah. So this gaming market to date is just, it blows me away. The global gaming market is worth over $187 billion in 2024. Projections for 2030, it's going to reach, it could potentially reach $665 billion. And as we talked about in round one, now we're hitting them with the big numbers. In 2000, this market was $36 billion.
Yeah.
So in 25 years, we've climbed, $150 billion.
Correct, but the projection is 6 years.
Yeah.
To jump up to 4 times the amount.
Yeah.
Almost 4 times.
It's going to keep growing. The gaming industry as a whole in 2025 is worth $522 billion. So we're talking about video game design or graphics designers, video game design companies, all these third-party developers. It's just a massive ecosystem. And we kind of talked about it a little bit in text, but I don't really know how far we go with consoles. And I get, the point that you're going to make, but it seems like in business, the best thing that you can do is cut the thing that's losing you the most money.
No, I agree with you. I don't know how to look at it other than the fact that, and again, being like original gamers and everything, there's something about a piece of hardware that like shows you like, I bought this, I paid for it. Yeah, if the cost isn't a ton up front and everything, like if something wasn't there as a console, you don't have anything to buy. At the same time, I don't also know, like, for people to play a lot and have a lot of saved games and need a lot of, storage and stuff like that, do you really trust, like, if a server goes down or anything, it's like, hey, that game that you put like 200 hours into? Yeah, unfortunately, that's gone now.
It got lost in the cloud.
No one's going to, no, I don't trust it. Here's the deal. I don't think within our lifetimes they'll get rid of an actual, some type of like, it might get smaller.
Yeah.
And everything, of course.
Like an Apple TV size.
It could be something like that. Yeah. And if they don't, I'm going to request from that company and be like, do you guys have and they're like something we can send you and just have you set like on your desk? Like, yeah, you guys have that? They're like, yeah, it weighs like 2 pounds. It has a light that lights up, but you can just put a battery in it and everything. But it makes a noise when you power it up. It'll be like ding, ding. So, I mean, it gives you that feel, but yeah, it's completely useless.
But we're looking just from doing this episode. I mean, there's another Xbox that's rumored to be coming out in, I think, 2027.
Yeah.
There's supposedly PlayStation 6 that they're hinting at. So where it feels almost like a PS5 and an Xbox Series X are like still so new, we're 5 years into it.
Yeah.
And a 7-year span is...
Well, we're 1 year into the PS5 Pro.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the $700 one.
Jeez. So we're already looking towards the future with these rumors, and every single time we were just talking about how can it get better? Is there really something else that you need? But as soon as I saw those rumors, I started thinking about what could be a PS6. Like what am I going to be getting into? Because I already know I'm going to buy it. It's not really there's no question.
I was searching. I was like, what's the price for the new rumored price for the? They're like, $499, probably the same price as the last one, but only time will tell. Again, the gaming industry is blown up with, like you said, mobile gaming. Everyone's playing fucking something on their phones. Some of the acquisitions, kind of the last thing I'll say is to give people a scope of how wide reaching this stuff is. So Microsoft, within the last couple years, they ended up buying a couple game studios because they're trying to essentially kind of do the same thing that Sony did and have exclusives and things like that. They ended up buying the studio that creates Call of Duty. So it was Activision Blizzard.
Oh, okay.
And then before that, and that deal, I think it was 13 billion or something like that, something insane. For what, can you imagine being like, yeah, so my video game, I'm playing Xbox. Yeah, the guys that make it bought this other video game company for $13 billion. No one would understand that if they had no idea what you were talking about.
No.
And then they bought another studio. I can't remember the name of it, but
I think it was Bathsheba, wasn't it?
It was the one that handles Bethesda.
Okay.
So they're like Elder Scrolls, things like that. So especially with bringing those studios in-house, this is not going to slow down. And it's not going to slow down because everybody that's now born is a completely new generation of gamers. And there is now a time frame, whether it's people our age 5 years from now that actually were the older siblings that played, they now have, it's like, it's never going to run out now. That those people are just going to keep getting older and still gaming while they're just gaining all these other people. It's now a consistent flow of just putting it out.
There's also something to be said for owning these studios nowadays because the exclusive has gone the way of the dodo bird. Now,
so much more money.
If you buy a studio,
cross platforms here,
you're selling the studio that you own is selling on the rival game competitor's console.
Yeah,
and you're making money off of their customers.
Sony was freaking out because they're buying Activision. What's going on? And I guess the head of Sony called up the head of Microsoft or Xbox and was like, hey, we just heard about it. They tried to kill the deal. Sony was scared shitless. And he's like, we're not buying. He's like, we're buying it because Blizzard and Activision have an in for mobile gaming and we're trying to get it on that. He's like, we have no intention of taking Call of Duty away. Like, that doesn't make sense for us because you have, not everyone would switch over to Xbox to get that. Whereas we now get to charge you for everybody that plays Call of Duty on your system. So no, we're good over here. But yeah, it's fascinating the same way for this because even more so than us talking about the Ford episode and us both have driven Fords and driving them and everything, there was much more of a personal connection to this because everything we talked about was just oh yeah, but you were finding out how all we cared about was gaming.
Yeah.
and the game itself, but now you find out of all the stuff that it took to kind of bring this to the table, but also how much of it, like a huge, just part of our just normal world now that we don't think about.
We got the end result of everything. We didn't understand what it took to get there.
Like, you're not going to think twice after I leave tonight about walking in that room and firing up and sitting down and playing a game.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've been thinking about it for like the last 4 hours.
I know. And the same thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drive home. I'm going to walk upstairs. I'm going to let my wife know I'm home. And on the way up there, I go and I fire up the Xbox so it's ready when I come downstairs.
Make sure the updates and everything are downloaded already and ready to go.
Exactly. And I guess we should probably leave you guys on that because we want to get out and do that.
Yeah, and we hope you do too.
All right. Well, you got anything else?
No, I think we're good.
All right. Well, we hope you guys enjoyed this series. Let us know how you guys felt about spacing it out and kind of getting a little bit of a break from kind of similar topics and everything. If we're hoping it's positive, so that way we can keep kind of doing it in this way, because we do have more episodes coming out, bigger topics that are going to require multiple episodes. Yeah. So it's going to be good to know if you guys want us to break that up or if you guys want us to keep that kind of stuff together. So let us know.
Yeah, pace and space or lump sum. That would be a great resource to have.
All right, we'll catch you next week.
Peace.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us for another episode. If you like what you heard, hit that subscribe and like button. Follow us. If you didn't like what you heard, still hit that anyway, because we'll probably cover something in the future that you do like. Please follow us on our social media. Adam, hit him with it.
Our Instagram is historically high pod, historically high pod, and we are on Twitter at historically high. That's historically HI.
All right. And if you guys want to send in any feedback, suggestions, hit us up on those two, or you can even do it on Gmail. It's historicallyhighpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks again.
Peace.